The rejects that broke the internet. On July 2nd, 2019, large parts of the internet suddenly started failing. Websites that had worked a few minutes earlier began showing errors. Users refreshed the page. Nothing. They tried again. Still nothing. For many people, it looked like the websites themselves were broken. But the real problem was much deeper. The issue was not a hacker. It was not a massive cyber attack. It was not a fire inside a data center. It was a single software update. More specifically, a single regular expression. The company at the center of the incident was Cloudflare. Cloudflare sits between users and millions of websites. When you open a website protected by Cloudflare, your request often passes through Cloudflare's network first. It helps block attacks. It speeds up websites. It protects servers. And because Cloudflare is used by so many websites, even a small mistake inside its systems can have a huge effect. That day, Cloudflare was updating part of its web application firewall. A web application firewall, or WAF, is designed to inspect web traffic and block malicious requests. It looks for patterns, suspicious behavior, known attacks, dangerous inputs. And to detect those patterns, systems often use regular expressions. A regular expression is like a search pattern for text. It can be simple, for example, finding an email address, or it can be complex, very complex, and that is where the danger begins. Regular expressions are powerful, but some of them can become extremely expensive for a computer to process. The pattern may look harmless, just a line of text. But when the wrong input hits the wrong expression, the engine can start checking too many possibilities. Again and again, trying different paths. Backtracking, repeating work, until the CPU is overloaded. This is called catastrophic backtracking. And on that day, Cloudflare deployed a rule that caused exactly that. The new firewall rule went live. Almost immediately, CPU usage across Cloudflare's network spiked. Servers that were supposed to handle web traffic became overwhelmed. They were not down because the machines disappeared. They were down because they were too busy trying to process the bad rule. The system was doing work, too much work, the wrong kind of work. And when the servers could not keep up, users started seeing 502 errors. To an average person, it looked like websites were offline. To engineers, it was worse. Because this was not one broken website. This was a global infrastructure problem. A small change had been pushed into a system that sat in front of a huge part of the web. And now that small change was spreading its effect everywhere. That is the terrifying thing about infrastructure software. When it works, nobody thinks about it. It is invisible, fast, silent, useful. But when it fails, millions of people notice instantly. At first, the team had to understand what was happening. Was it an attack? Was it a data center problem? Was it a network failure? Was something wrong with traffic routing? But the pattern pointed towards CPU. The servers were being consumed from inside the system. Eventually, Cloudflare identified the source. The WAF rule had to be disabled. Once the problematic rules were killed, CPU usage dropped. Traffic recovered. Websites started working again. The outage lasted around half an hour, but the lesson lasted much longer. Because the strange part of this incident is how small the original mistake looked. It was not a giant piece of broken software. It was not an entire failed platform. It was not thousands of lines of code. It was a regular expression, a pattern, something that many developers write every day without thinking twice. And that is exactly why the story matters. In software, danger does not always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks like a normal config change. A small rule, a tiny update, a line that passes review because it seems harmless. But once that line runs at global scale, everything changes. A regular expression on your laptop is one thing. A regular expression running across a worldwide network is something else. Scale turns small mistakes into major incidents. And this is not only about Cloudflare, it applies to every serious system. Search engines, Payment systems, banking apps, cloud platforms, AI tools, security filters. Anything that processes huge amounts of data can be damaged by small performance mistakes. A bug does not need to corrupt data to be dangerous. It does not need to delete files. It does not need to steal passwords. Sometimes all it needs to do is waste CPU over and over again until the system cannot breathe. The real lesson is not never use regular expressions. That would be too simple. The lesson is that powerful tools need strong testing, especially when they run at scale. A rule should not only be tested for correctness, it should be tested for performance. Not just does it block the right thing, but also how much CPU does it consume? What happens with worst-case input? What happens if this runs everywhere at once? Can we shut it off quickly? Because in large systems, the question is not whether mistakes will happen. They will. The question is whether the system can survive them. Cloudflare did recover quickly, but the incident became a famous reminder for engineers everywhere. A single line can matter. A small pattern can overload a network, and a quiet software update can become a global outage. Most people never saw the regular expression. They only saw the error page, but behind that error page was a simple truth about technology. The internet can feel massive, stable, almost impossible to break. But sometimes, all it takes is one bad pattern,